If we look at the current state of the Dutch tech ecosystem, we could say it's quite vibrant. We're one of the fastest growing tech industries in Europe. But despite all of that, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, we are lagging.
It was in the year of 2011 that I realized, hey, there is a good opportunity to build a deep tech company in the Netherlands. And it was in 2016 that we founded the company. The focus was building the product, but also building the company. Retaining and basically hiring top talents worldwide is a big challenge.
The Dutch tech sector it's growing fast. I think the challenge will be talent. So where do you find people to grow your companies? And also where do you find entrepreneurs that think much bigger than just the Netherlands, but think at a global scale?
Tech is where interesting things happen. We're now at a point where tech can do more than what people can imagine, and it's starting to threaten people as well. So we need to evolve people in this changing ecosystem.
That, I think, is one of our greatest challenges in how are we as a country going to make sure that we get all the bright minds that we need to come up with these new ideas and help our industry contribute to, first of all, economy, but also the social challenges that we have. Diversity and inclusion is an important topic here because we as an industry need leaders that represent groups of people, talented people that want to come and work in our industry.
Especially in deep tech, where we develop equipments which are multidisciplinary, extremely risky, at the edge of what is possible. It is important that we make sure that all hidden risks are brought on the table. Having diversity and equity in a sense that people can speak out, can tell their opinion from completely different angle, from a completely different background, in a way that they feel included, helps to basically manage the risk and avoid unmanageables at a later moment in time.
I know that I have not always had that one role model or leader that I could build my confidence upon and that I could follow.
I've always been the only one, been the only woman, been the only colored woman.
Being an underrepresented, marginalized community, being queer, I don't have any role models to look to or anyone that can support me in this narrative to understand this landscape better.
We've seen through research that role models are so super important.
Understand our needs as queer folks, understand our needs as neurodiverse folks. Can be done, let's do it.
I grew up in South Africa. It was quite a paternal society. I have a sister, so we are two girls in the house, and I have my father to thank for always feeling that I could do anything and everything. And I had a rude wake-up call as I grew up in my career when I realized that there was more systemic biases at play. When I was very young in my career, 24 years old, I found a piece of paper on a printer that I shouldn't have found, which stated the salaries of my team. And I looked down this list. I was rated exceed and outstanding in terms of performance. I looked down this list and my salary was at the bottom. So I ran into I will never forget this, I ran into the partner's office with this piece of paper and said, "What is this?" And he said to me, "You never asked." So I assumed that there was equity in the system, and therefore I did not have to ask. And I have learned that that is a misnomer, and that there is still a way to go to change the system from within. So I believe that my role is as an advocate for others, as an ally, as a mentor, and also increasingly as a role model to show younger people that it can be done and that you can have a life and have a job and be a woman.
So I think it's important to realize that when companies do DEI well, they are 70% more likely to capture new markets. Ethnically diverse teams are 35% more likely to outperform on profitability. These companies show a 19% higher innovation revenue, and they are 75% more likely to see ideas turn into products and services. DEI is a real business enabler. It's not a nice to have if you are in technology, it's a must have. So what we aim to do with this new community of diverse leaders in tech is to bring all the different identities together. So women in tech, people of color in tech, you name it. Everybody that identifies as a diverse leader in tech, we hope will become part of this community. And they will bring a ton of experience, expertise, and collectively leverage their leadership power to empower each other and their organizations. One of the new things that we aim to do is to, first of all, build a toolbox, create access to best practices, knowledge, experts for the whole industry to tap into, so that we can level up when it comes to that expertise that is needed. So during the year, Diverse Leaders in Tech organizes several events, meetups. It's really important to join these kinds of events and also invite people who normally wouldn't attend an event like this.
The first thing I noticed was just how colorful these events were. People felt free to come as themselves.
In order for the tech sector to grow in its diversification, this is exactly the kind of event that you need. So you bring us all together, we get to know each other, we can be sourcing from each other, we can make commitments, and we can source our talent when we know each other better. So I love the idea that you got us together, we can see each other, we can connect, we can learn what each other's strengths are, and we can build business together.
For me, finding this community now is just like mind-blowing for me, you know, that I finally feel like I've got a community that I can learn from, share with, and ultimately grow with to be that driving force that changes the landscape here.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is really where the power is. I think we need to look at the power dynamics, and I think I love the fact that we address non-diversity in VC funding and the landscape of investors as well. Definitely money and finance have a huge impact on which startup gets successful and moves to the next round. So I think I would love to see more diversity in that landscape of investors.
Stories move and data proves. So my appeal to you today is to share your stories and your experiences and build upon data. A magnificent team of Techleapers and our fabulous partners as Mischief Makers have designed 10 workshops in which we are going to co-create our very first Diverse Leaders in Tech manifesto today. A North Star that is inspiring enough to grow our community and at the same time tangible enough to create real impact in our ecosystem.
Anyone is biased. You have a frame of thinking and you're not even aware that you have that frame because it's very logical to you. But if you just take another position, then suddenly you see how simplistic that is and that the world is more complicated. So it's to stay curious, to stay asking questions, that I think is really important.
What really touched me at the kickoff is the energy, enthusiasm, and drive for all these different kinds of leaders with different backgrounds, different experiences, feeling that they belong together and that they are really eager on working together on topics that are important to them.
After the first event that I attended from Techleap, I attended a different event a week later, and again I was looking around and I could count the women on one hand. So really the road that we still have to walk is still a long one.
We're also doing stuff, for instance, here at the Next Web, organizing roundtables, talking to international experts on how we can progress on DEI issues and challenges in the Netherlands. The intention there is to really, help conferences like this become more diverse, Our intention is always to connect different networks to each other that are not connected yet. So that's the way that we want to use and facilitate our community to increase not only the diversity, but also the sense of belonging in this industry.
In the next event today, that next steps are being taken. We are talking not anymore in those kind of initiatives, but it's more on how can we translate data to really practice, how can we mature basically in the organization, the AI topics, how can we actually put it in the strategy.
I think overall what impressed me most, I think, is that we've managed to get this topic such at the forefront the whole day. And if you've seen the enthusiasm and so many people that wanted to get involved on all the specific topic, I think that for me was the biggest takeaway.
I think the added value of a community such as diverse leaders in tech is that you belong to a community, so you need each other to grow. Also here it is about different perspectives, because even on diversity inclusion you can have many perspectives, you know, from a color side, from a background side, from an age side, cognitive side. So I think having this community also will enrich the people in that community.
What community means to me is that there's people who are willing to push you, willing to provide new information, really help you actively listen, because you can't get better by yourself only. You can get better and stronger faster around people around you in different types of teams as well.
Ideally, in 5 years of time, and tech sector should look much more inclusive. I think to change suddenly is probably a mission impossible. However, I think it's really important to have the mindset changed. So that is including, you know, the top level, sub-top level, the people on the work floor, to understand that we have to include more of the society into our data design, into our AI design, into our workforce.
Right now, I feel we're still very much focused on gender diversity. And I really hope in 5 years from now that we also see really more other types of diversity, and that we're also more vocal about it. Also the things that are not seen, that they are more visible, and that people feel trust to actually talk about it and speak up about maybe some less visible types of diversity.
I think at the moment, particularly within the Netherlands, we really need to make progress on expanding our capture of demographic data. We really focus at the moment on gender and age, and if we do that, we're missing a whole different range of personalities, identities and backgrounds. So it's really important to us to start thinking about how do we capture ethnicity, disability, health status, what languages do you speak at home, what's your socioeconomic background, so that we can really look then at intersectional identities and what that means and how people experience the workplace, so that we can create equitable policies to give everybody the chance to access an amazing career.
So I don't know exactly where technology is going to be in 10 years, but I want the people to be at the driving seat building that, a more diverse slate of our communities and societies than it is today. And I'm encouraged to believe that that will be more of the case than we are now in the future in 10 years' time.
These diversity leader and tech events are really, really helpful to larger companies who still rely on these older networks perhaps. And they know that there is a need to refresh their networks and to cross-pollinate better with different groups, to grow people, to grow networks, and to change the face of technology in the Netherlands. It's a very worthwhile outcome.
For me, honestly, it brought a lot of awareness, also act as a mirror that I became more familiar with my unconscious bias in these topics, and that's already an impact for me.
When you join this community, what you can expect is to connect with peers. Peers who are working in your industry, doing business, and that are all keen on supporting, empowering each other, opening their network to you. You could also expect a team that is there to facilitate you as a leader to bring tools, best practices, ideas, but also people that can help you progress DEI in your company as well.
So we really want to create an empowered community of diverse leaders where people from all kinds of backgrounds find that they find a kind of a common spirit where they can learn, but also can be a pool for executives in the tech sector.
I believe there's a big challenge that we need to overcome. And let me be brutally honest now. I think we're all aware of the importance of DEI. I think we also secretly know what needs to be done. But we need people to put their money where their mouth is. DEI will not progress without people, without resources, without investing. I think the call to action is, if you're talking about it, are you also walking your talk?
Well, I think any thriving tech sector or entrepreneurial community, ecosystem, or whatever you call it, needs to be very open for all kinds of talent.
The biggest eye-opener for me from attending the events and being part of the Diverse Leaders in Tech community is just how many communities feel isolated. I definitely had eye for racial discrimination, but I've really had my eyes open in terms of neurodiversity and many other groups, bi and trans groups, that don't feel safe either. For me, it's been a challenge to widen my own net of allyship and sponsorship towards others.
Such a community will bring awareness, and over time, while we continue having this awareness, it will radiate to other shells of the society, of the industries as well.
Techleap took the initiative to kickstart this community. And as I said, we have made great progress. We've connected a lot of leaders and allies to our initiative, working on the manifesto. But we need a much larger group of people with power and influence and money to make things happen.
Of course, communities like this start a call to action through the manifest, but the reality is in the rooms where the decisions matter and the behavior that takes place there. And we know from the research that when 30% of the people in that room are other, no one is other anymore.
And bringing that awareness itself will help the foundation of having diversity in place in a broader perspective.
So that means penetrating the boards, the places where strategy gets decided, the places where recruitment gets done, and populating that with diverse faces, and then there will be no need for this manifest anymore.
I really believe that the big tech organizations with headquarters in the Netherlands or are working in the Netherlands want to tap into new markets in Europe, that if they are saying that DEI is important for their talent, for their markets, but also because of their social responsibility, they should join us. Let's see how we can work together and really set goals together and work on initiatives and not just say that it's important or talk about the why, but start implementing the how. And if organizations and governments are brave enough to do so, I think we can overcome that challenge.